We're going to look at how to use a jQuery-based external library to assist us in creating a table to display our JSON data using Ajax. Data tables is an open source or free library that we can use to achieve this. Here you can see on the home page, we have a table here that has several different features. We're able to do pagination. Here at the bottom you see pagination. We're able to show a certain number of records, and we're also able to search. If we wanted to search for Tokyo, for instance, everything is filtered using Ajax. So it's pretty nice, and it is really easy to get set up and to use. So some of the features I was mentioning: pagination, instant search, column ordering. You're able to use almost any source, right? JavaScript or Ajax. If you are rendering data from a database using PHP or Node or whatever, C#, you can send that data as a JSON format and use data tables to display that data in a table that looks like this. All right, so we want to get this set up in our project to display our JSON data in our JSON file. And I have a table here set up in my HTML file with several records. And we're just going to install data tables and convert this table to a data table. And we are also including our main.js file, which is where we'll be putting our data table code. All right, so let us take a look at the manual on how to get data tables set up in our project. So let's go to installation. And there are a few dependencies. We obviously have to get jQuery installed, as it is jQuery based, along with a few other files. So jQuery is the first file that we have to include. And I am going to use the CDN. So a CDN, if we scroll down just a little bit, we see here that to install data tables, we can also use a CDN to install the file. So a CDN is a content delivery network, and these are available to us online. And these are the links that we need in order to install data tables in our website. All right, but before we copy those, we need our jQuery dependency first. And let me get the CDN from Google, jQuery CDN. Okay, so let us copy this section here. And this will give us jQuery in our file. So let us put jQuery as the very first dependency that will load. And then let us grab these other two files that we need in order for our data table to work. So I'm going to paste those two here. All right, so one is a link to a style sheet, and let me actually put everything next to each other. So scripts with scripts and link by itself. All right, and we have our final script here, our main. All right. All right, so our CSS and three different scripts: jQuery, and our data table script, and our local main script. All right, so we're going to convert this table into a data table. So currently this table looks like this. So let us load our file. So currently this is what our table looks like, right? And we want to now convert it to a data table. So let's scroll up And now that we have installed our data table, let's take a look at the manual. So installation, we've done the installation. And now we want to get our table converted to a data table. So here we can initialize our data table. So let us actually copy this snippet here. And we'll need to paste this in our main.js. All right, so this is actually jQuery syntax. So all throughout the course, we've been using vanilla JavaScript, our document selectors. jQuery uses this simple syntax with a $, document.ready function, and this selects the entire HTML document, and then within that selector we are selecting our tables. So our table has an ID of example, so we'll need to change this to example. So remember, this $ or hashtag indicates that it is an ID. If it was a class, we would have a dot. All right, so now we're selecting our table, and we're just simply going to chain or use our dot notation and convert our table to a data table. So let us save this and go back and refresh. Right, so we see now that we have converted that, bare bones HTML table to a nice looking data table, so we can show the different entries. Right, if we want to expand it to 100, if we only want 10, we have pagination, so we can click on a page number, or we can click on previous or next, and we can also filter. So if I wanted to know who was an engineer, I could type in engineer, and it would simply filter out that search result. So now what we're going to do is display our JSON data here as a data table. So in order to do this, we need a few things set up. All right, so I am going to delete everything after our table header. Let's ensure that we have our closing table tag. All right, so this is our table and it closes here. So we need our table head, and in our table head we're going to have the different field names that we want to display. So ID, first name, last name, email, location, and job title. So first one would be ID, first name, last name, email, job title, or location, and then job title. All right, there we go. So now we have our header set up for our data table, and you can find all of this instruction on this data table website in their manual. So it has really good documentation that can help you get set up. I believe there's a section here if we want to be able to get Ajax, right? So this is the Ajax. If you have JSON data, you can use this type of syntax here to convert that JSON data into a data table. So that is what we're going to do. We just need our data source, which we already have right here in our JSON file. So the next thing that we need here, so within our data table method, I am going to pass in a few parameters here. So the first parameter is we are going to be using Ajax to get our data. And now we need the path to our JSON source or our data source. So in this case, our data source is in our contacts folder here. Right, so it has to be contacts/data.json. And the second parameter we're going to pass in are the columns. And this will be passed in as an array. So the first column and the identifier for all of our records here in our JSON file is data. And this could be employees, it could be contacts, for instance. So if we want to change this to contacts, then contacts is what we would use as our identifier. So the first parameter has to be contacts, and of course it has to be a string. So contacts, and the first thing we want from our contacts, this should be a semicolon. So the first thing we want is our ID, and then we can close and we put a comma to separate each value. So I think we have first name, last name, email, location, and job title. So first, and we have to ensure that it is spelled exactly as it is spelled here in this file. So first name underscore name, last name, email, location, and job title. All right, so we don't need this final comma. All right, so everything looks good. And now we can try and run this. So let us go back. All right, so here we have our JSON data loading in our table. And here we have our data that's rendering. And it has all the functionality that was shown before. So if we wanted to search for Shayla, we are able to do so. If we want to search for accountants, then we get all of our accountants. So this is a nice way to be able to quickly show or display our JSON data in a table format.